All right. Today I've got Curt Avery, who is the corporate trainer for the Highlands Ranch Community Association. Curt, thank you so much for being here today.
Great. Thanks for having me, Jake.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Great day. Beautiful Friday here in Highlands Ranch. I appreciate having you over here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much. I first heard about you through my wife, who was a yoga instructor for a time at the Northridge Rec Center. And she went through the new employee training with you and was just really impressed by your leadership and kind of your ability to instruct and just taking things seriously and just the job that you do. And then I've heard about you from Hannah Yeager, who was on the podcast, and heard about you as kind of like the safety guy. And I'm a big safety guy myself, so I've appreciated that. And so tell me a little bit about all of your responsibilities for HRCA.
Sure. Thank you. Great. First of all, it's a great endorsement. So always love having positive feedback. And I do remember your wife, Ellen, when she came through my new hire orientation, and impressive like you are. Hannah is great. So she's one of my coworkers here. And as I was just telling you off the air a little bit, we share a wall. So I see Hannah every day. So she's good. So my favorite part of my job is the part that we kind of discussed with Ellen already. It's the new hire orientation. So I have the opportunity to meet with all of our employees as they first come in here. So they go through the paperwork, go through the whole onboarding procedure, and then they meet up with me with new hire orientation. And our goal in that one is kind of a comprehensive look at our entire organization. So we start out with a real brief history lesson. I know some people don't love history. You and I are kind of talking a little bit earlier, and it seems I think we both like history, but not everybody shares our passion. So trying to bring who we are to life and let them know big picture who we are. And then we kind of dig in, kind of show like where do we fit in within the organization. We talk about the nuts and bolts of how to get information off our webpage. We go to that, and then we go through all the HR stuff, all the human resources stuff, of what the expectations are, and the handbook, and then we end up with the safety area. So I kind of fell into the safety area sideways on it, but I've obviously embraced it, and so it's one of the big parts of my job. And then that kind of parlayed into droning on too much with the new hire orientation and the safety. And then from there, we went into kind of developing a wellness program with our employees. I developed a customer service program here at the HRCA. It's the Eagle, which is our symbol here in Highlands Ranch. So the Eagle customer service philosophy with one of our directors, Mark Gunther. And then I'm also in charge of our employee relations committee, trying to appreciate the employees for different things that they're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that Eagle. I'd love to hear about that vision.
Cool. So, you and I are both talking and been in the corporate business. So, my quick background, just without boring you too much on it. I grew up in Ohio. I've got a journalism degree from the Ohio State University. I was in advertising in both Columbus and Cincinnati at a large agency and a small agency. Came out here to Colorado and worked with some family members for a family business. Through my experiences, had a lot of corporate training, a lot of customer service training. And then as we started working at the HRCA, Mark Gunther and I and some of the other directors, Ken Joseph, namely, we started trying to improve our customer service. I mean, our most important facet of the HRCA is our members. And so, we went through a bunch of training with the fish philosophy out of the Pike Place Fish Market in Seattle. We did extensive research with both Chick-fil-A and Disney Association. And then there's a kind of a one-off that not a lot of people know. But there's a gentleman named Bob Farrell who used to run restaurants in Seattle. And so he has a customer service philosophy called give them the pickle. Basically what it is when you're in a restaurant, go the extra step. People, if their favorite part of your restaurant's a pickle, give them the pickle. Even though
it's interesting.
Yeah, he's like this animated little guy.
And then Disney, I like that you said Disney is the bump the lamp. Have you ever heard bump the lamp?
No, I don't know that.
I don't want to dive off too much, but it's an interesting one. It's in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. There's a moment where Roger Rabbit speeds off and he bumps the lamp. And like the hours and the amount of animation and effort it took to have Roger bump the lamp was incredible. But it was this little detail that kind of brought his animation into the real world because he bumps this real life thing.
Gotcha.
And so for the time, and so it's called bump the lamp. It's do that special thing. Yeah. Give them the pickle. I like that.
Yeah. It sounds all along the same lines. So that's awesome. And back when I was in college, just reading a book by Lee Iacocca, and then there was a sociologist that I worked with at Ohio State, Dr. Ty Cuerva, and always said, great companies do all small things right. And that's kind of like bumping the lamp, like you were saying, the one minute detail, but how dominoes and parlays into a whole philosophy. So we developed the Eagle philosophy using, the acronym. So, EAGLE. And so, the Eagle part of it, the E is engaging. So we want our staff members, when people come in to engage with our members as they're coming in, not to be distracted, this type of thing, and to know that that's why they're there. And then the A is attitude. And in every customer service, you always hear about the attitude. You have the option, to either have a bad attitude or a good attitude in it. The G part of it is go above and beyond. L, listening. And so that's all part of it. And then our last E is both external and internal customers. And so we deal a lot with our external customers, our members coming in, our guests or visitors, but not to forget about our internal customers too. Because in the corporate setting around here, I go through and in some of our training we talked about, I said, all right, look at the person next to you and then tell me how much time to be spent with all of our members today in an 8-hour shift. Mm. And so, they'll say, well, anywhere from, 30 seconds to somebody coming through to a couple of minutes having a conversation, or a phone call, but you're working with the person next to you 5, 6, 7 hours. So, once again, that great customer service with your coworkers, your internal customers is something we try to imply as well.
Awesome. Well, it's always been impressive to me since we moved here about 7 years ago. And it's always been impressive to me that this association that we're kind of, even if we weren't excited about it, we would be beholden to it.
Right. And mandatory member, right?
Exactly. We can't avoid it. That the customer service is phenomenal. Oh, great. I mean, everyone is always friendly at the front desk, and I feel like I can just chat with people most of the time. And then one of my favorite stories that I like to tell is I walked into the East Ridge Rec Center pool area one day with my daughter, and I don't remember what the question was, but I just came up to one of the lifeguards kind of beside him. And I said, excuse me, just ask him a question. And he's like, I'm really sorry, but I have to keep my eyes on the pool. And I was like, oh, wow. Way to go. Way to go, young man. This high school, and he had just kind of the courage and just understanding of his responsibilities to say sorry, my job actually isn't to answer your questions. Right. It's to keep these children safe. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the safety protocols. And, I've seen the, you're only as good as your last scan. Yeah. Tell me about all that.
So that's great. So, our safety stuff, we have several different facets of safety, but what you touched on is the single most important thing we have here. Our lifeguards are just phenomenal. We're part of Ellison Associates, without boring you with too many of the details. But before any lifeguard even comes on, they have an 8 to 10 hour online course that they do, going through all different types of safety, assist, rescues, first aid, CPR, on down the line, everything from what you do with the bee sting, this type of stuff. They then jump in an in-person class for it's about 3 days on that one. And then they go through all the practical things that they just read up on. And so they get tested out on CPR and they learn how to use the AED machine. And they're in the pool doing assist and rescues, everything from rescue breathing, what you do with infants. And I know you've got both a little one and then a little bit older to younger kids to adults on down the line. They go through protocol of what to do, of calling emergency vehicles at that point. Also, they're considered our first responders around the recreation center. So whenever we have an emergency around the rec center, we have walkie-talkies, internal walkie-talkies, and we'll use the term code red emergency and then the location. And every supervisor on duty will then react to that code red emergency, and any lifeguard is not on the stand. So the young man that you're talking to, he wouldn't abandon his zone of coverage. And then there's a 10-20 golden rule for all of our lifeguards. So they scan their entire zone every 10 seconds. And if they identify anybody that needs assistance, they can get to them within 20 seconds. So within 30 seconds at a maximum time, somebody can assist you in the pool. So they never abandon that area. Pools are always guarded at that point. But any additional, and that's why you see additional lifeguards around. And sometimes they're cleaning, but a lot of times they're there to react in case we do have an emergency. They're calling 911, they're doing the equipment, so we're doing the actual assist. If somebody needs assistance, they hold up their hand, I need assistance from another guard, and they can display them, or they can react to the code reds. In addition to that, the lifeguards attend an in-service every month, anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, where they get checked out on all that different protocol that we just ran through. Those licenses are good for 1 year. So let's say a lifeguard's been there and say that one young man you talked to, maybe he's 17 years old or something, became a lifeguard at 16. He would have gone through the class I talked about, attended 11 services, and then in the 12th month, he has to be recertified, going through all that training again. So these kids that you see around there, and we have adults working for us as well, but phenomenal. I mean, they're some of the best trained people around. And we talk about in our training, and we really press down. It seems kind of heavy when you go through it, but I mean, the first one's a great job. I mean, for a lifeguard as a kid, but it's the single most important position we have at the HRCA. And since we've been around since 1981, so going on 43 plus years, we have never had a drowning. And our safety record is exemplary. And if you think about almost anything else that you do in life, if you have a 99.9% success rate, so, if a kid's taking a AP physics class that's a 99.99% average, that's phenomenal. For you and I, success rate in business and stuff like that, that's phenomenal. But for us in that area, that's failing. And the one thing that we're trying to impress upon all of our lifeguards is that every single person in those zones of coverage, every one of those heads bobbing up and down is someone's dad, someone's mom, someone's kid, someone's brother, someone's sister, and every single one of them matter. And so for this individual taking it serious, that's kind of the protocol. We want to be rescue ready at all times. And we do an internal auditing program, and we also hire that company, Ellison Associates, to come out 4 to 6 times a year. And they kind of like go hide a camera, and then they'll monitor them, and then we go through a training session on that one. So we have both the external and then also internal audits.
Awesome. That's really cool.
You asked me a 5-second question. I gave you a 45-minute answer to it, but yeah.
That is perfect. I like the details, and I'm sure so will our listeners here. Here's something else that I heard was last summer, last June, we had that tornado. And I know there's like a lot more to safety other than lifeguards, but I heard from a couple people who happened to be at the rec centers during that tornado that everything was like seamless and smooth. Tell me about like facility safety and like what that experience was like.
Sure. So that was a scary experience. I'll go into, and I get passionate about some of this stuff, so I'll try to talk a little bit slower.
No, you're great. Keep it coming.
But we start out our safety on a base level. And so I'm our safety coordinator administrator at the HRCA. So we have a safety committee, which has departmental heads for all of the different departments of the HRCA, a couple of our directors. So the HRCA has 8 directors. The Highlands Ranch Community Association, they report to our general manager, Mike Bailey. In addition to that, we have 5 board of directors that are elected by the 95 delegates here at Highlands Ranch. So internally, we run the operations on that one. So we have a safety committee. We review policy on a monthly basis, more if we need to, review every workers' comp claim that comes through. We discuss it as an organization. What can we do to make sure that this never happens again? What can we do to prevent this in the future? Which is obviously our goal, is to prevent an accident before it happens. In addition to that, we get, I'm just going to estimate, but around the recreation center, probably 12 to 15 facility inspections a year. So
wow.
starting, yeah, I know, is that kind of crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, and you and I are kind of talking about, and some of our questions like, hey, what are some of the things that some of our members don't see? But we have a fire marshal, like all businesses do, that come to all 4 of the recreation centers. We have 2 different insurance companies that come. One insurance company is worried about property loss. So they're looking to make sure that everything's in good standing, your roof, your doors, the condition of the building, this type of stuff. But they don't necessarily, this sounds bad. Sorry to any of our insurance agents, but they care about property and not their top priority being people per se. We have another insurance company that's worried about the employees and the people coming through, making sure that we don't have injured people. So they don't care necessarily if you have to replace a roof. That's with another insurance company. They worry about that there's no sharp edges and that people aren't bonking their heads and that there's ergonomics in the office area and this type of stuff. We have the fire marshals, and all that they're concerned about is that if there's an emergency, can people safely get outside the building? Are all your exits and egresses and signs in good working order? We have another company. We hire a risk management company that comes in and kind of goes through a lot of this stuff with us, trains us. I've been on, a couple of dozen inspections with these folks. And then we talk about, and then they keep us in the know of any type of federal OSHA regulations, state regulations, this type of stuff to make sure that we're in compliance. So we, as a safety committee and myself, we compile all this information. And so if one standard says, hey, around the fire marshal's like, around fire extinguishers, I want 30 inches of clearance. But when your property loss company says, well, I want 36 inches. So we just take the farthest and the biggest and the widest standard that's there. And we say, all right, everything needs to be 36 inches on this one. And then some people say for it's an oxymoron, a routine emergency, you only have to evacuate 25 feet or 50 feet. But some say if there's potential chemicals involved, we want you evacuating 200 feet away from the building. So we just made our standard 200 feet away from the building.
It's a great call.
So, right? I mean, so that's like, hey, because you don't want to be thinking in a crisis situation. It's just like that part of the parking lots we're going to. And then, basically as we're walking around the rec center, we're fortunate to have some people with different abilities working for us. And so we say, hey, can our friends and our coworkers who may be in a wheelchair or some, a parent that has a stroller, can they get out of this exit easily and quickly? And so that's kind of putting it there. And not to bore you too much more of the training, we have a closure week at each one of the rec centers every year. And at that point, it's closed down to the members, and that's when we do all of our big stuff, replacing carpets, replacing equipment, pull every piece of furniture and equipment off the floor, research the floors, redo the carpets or replace them at that point, paint walls if it needs to be painted at that point, detail every machine, every piece of furniture, which we are cleaning on a daily basis, put it back in there. And then in the middle of the week, we run an emergency evacuation meeting. And on that one, we just concentrate on, hey, if there's a fire, there's a chemical spill, If there's a danger around the recreation center, and we're getting to a secure or lockdown situation, what do we do? And we run through 3 different scenarios. So the once again, a routine emergency, an oxymoron, where we get to our area, we look at, a primary, secondary, and a tertiary way out of that building. We sound the alarms, and we actually evacuate from the building and go 200 feet, which is pretty fast, about 75 steps as you're going out there. Come back, debrief, and then we run a second scenario where we start adding different barriers at that point. And so at this point, we'll block a door. So you can't go out the main door. So you have to find a second gate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool?
Yeah.
Cool. And then I also grab other employees that are in this drill, and we'll have them hide around the rec center to make sure we're checking every inch of every room. And you and I both being parents, kids act different in crisis situations. So are we looking to get everybody out of the building for this particular one? And then we go through a drill. Everybody come back in, debrief, and then I say, all right, the next drill we're going to do is an active threat situation. And anyone who's uncomfortable, just excuse yourself. We'll see you on your next shift, because we've all been through different experiences at this point. We then watch a video called Run, Hide, Fight. It's a video that's put out by the city of Houston over a dozen years ago. It's been adopted by the Department of Homeland Security. I think many of us, unfortunately, have heard that term. The situations on Run, Hide, Fight. And then we have people go through back to their work areas at that time. And at that time, we've already determined a primary way out of the building, a secondary way out of the building. This time we're going to look for potential hiding places if we need to, if there's a threat at this time, and then anything potentially you could defend yourself. I come in, everybody knows me. They've all been through new hire training and my other trainings at this point. I wear an orange or a yellow vest at this point, and then I just make a bunch of noise somewhere in the building. And at that point, we react to it. And we usually have the Douglas County Sheriff who's with us for half these drills as well. So they kind of co-train with us, which is awesome. And basically, if you're close enough, if you're far enough away from where the noise is coming, you're going to exit. You're going to run and take as many people with you at that point. If you're too close, you're finding a hiding place. And we kind of run through that protocol. So what we're trying to do is add training, but not make it too confrontational. And the last thing in the world I want to do is for somebody to go home that night and have a nightmare or a bad memory or something like that one. So we're just trying to get people thinking about how to look and outside of the box. Getting back to the tornado, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Question. Yeah, let's go back. That's fun too. That was actually super interesting, and some things that I, as a consumer of the rec centers, have never considered. Things like that. So, and we kind of talk about. So,
in your experience is what we want. Is that you come in here and you've had great experiences, and that you think our staff is friendly, and that that you feel comfortable when your daughter's swimming, that the pools are guarded, and you're impressed by that. And that's what we want. Behind the scenes, we want to make sure it's all happening. And the quickest way to ruin a good time is for somebody to get hurt. Right. And so all that customer service training, all that great equipment, all the different things that we're doing around the rec center are all for naught if somebody gets injured. So it kind of comes back down to safety.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, now let's talk about that tornado.
Yeah,
I was standing I was standing in our house with my daughter. My wife was out of town. We didn't have our next daughter yet.
Gotcha.
And wind started blowing, and I took
crazy, right?
Yeah, I took my daughter to the window, and we started watching. She's like, "Daddy, what's happening?" I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah. And
then I saw 2 garbage cans just blowing down the street. And I said, we're going to go to the basement. But yeah, what was that experience for you?
You grew up here in Colorado, as we kind of talked about. And to the best of my knowledge, I've been here over 30 years now in Highlands Ranch. To the best of my knowledge, there's only been 3 documented tornadoes west of I-25 in the metropolitan area. So, for years, for decades and decades and decades, when you hear the fire, when you hear the tornado warning going off, we generally don't think we're going to be affected here. Yes, we go into protocol. Yes, we let all of our members know around the recreation center. We have a internal system we go through. We talk to everybody on the walkie-talkies, the staff, and tell people. And when people are in the rec center, most of them are either swimming or playing sports, or they got their headphones in, they're working out, this type of stuff. So whenever we've had a tornado warning in the past, we've always let everybody know, hey, we're currently in a tornado warning to whatever 3:15, 4:20, whatever it might be at that point. Yeah. At this point, we don't feel we're in imminent danger. And we're not just saying that, we're checking, weather bug and the radars and local news and see where the tornado was at. And that's been the case since I've been working at the HRCA for over 15 years, that we prepared for it. We're ready for it. We know our tornado shelters, all of our staff practices where the tornado shelters are, which in our locker rooms. Anybody 18 years and older can leave the building if we do go into protocol at that time. Anybody 17 years and younger who's on a company is coming with us into the locker rooms, and we're staying there till we're out of imminent danger. So basically it's always been kind of information because we've never been hit. I was with our maintenance supervisor, and we were in between rec centers. We were between Northridge and Eastridge at that time. And all of a sudden I'm like, Steve, I said, this one seems bigger than we thought. Sure enough, tornado comes
Did you see it?
Over AMC, and then it hit Northridge Recreation Center and also our Eastridge Recreation Center.
Wow.
So we checked in at Northridge, and they had nominal damage, nothing too major. A couple windows that got blown out. Nobody hurt, thank goodness, for anywhere around. Some trees, some fencing, this type of stuff. And then as we were driving to Eastridge, tree after tree after tree after tree. And then it took out part of our roof over at Eastridge, took out, a bunch of our fencing along University. And so, by the time we got there, staff had done a fantastic job. They got people into those, just like as you had mentioned, got people in those tornado shelters. And then, Steve and Mark Gunther, our operations director, and Jake Heard, our recreation manager, and some other frontline staff members. We spent the rest of the night pulling trees off fences, and the fence on University was scary for us because it's next to the pool. So then we had to get some temporary fencing up there to make sure nobody stumbled into the pool at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we've just about completed our last work order.
Wow,
what happened at this point? So some stuff takes longer than other ones.
Wild. That's really cool.
Crazy, wasn't it? So we've changed our protocol now at the HRCA, for 100, whatever they documented, whether at 125, 150 years here in the Denver metro area, never a tornado on Highlands Ranch. So now when we're in a tornado warning, so a tornado has been spotted in Douglas County, we immediately go into tornado protocol as opposed to the information point. We go straight into protocol at this time. And then we start monitoring everything as we did before. And then we'll release people if we do not feel they're in imminent danger. So we've kind of done just a little switch on that one.
Yeah, once you experience the actual thing, it changes things up a bit. What a wild experience! It was so sad. I think for our community, I read that we lost 16,000 trees just in Highlands Ranch.
Wow,
which is crazy.
That's an enormous number, isn't it?
It was sad. I mean, the number of houses I can see into their backyards, which just feels tragic for some of those folks. Like the privacy they lost. Yeah. And the silver lining I can see is that how it really brought people out and kind of gave people something to bond over. I remember just coming out after it all happened and calmed down and meeting neighbors that I had never met before and kind of walk around surveilling the damage and seeing everything. Just kind of not that we ever root for this thing, but sort of this shared trauma for our community kind of brought things together.
That's cool. I mean, and once again, that's all part of it, making a positive out of a negative on that one. So that's the silver lining, like you said. So, we had, same thing. I mean, as far as like the community association, same thing. I live here in Highlands Ranch as well. And so, meeting with our neighbors and talking about, making sure everybody's all right. And thank God every time you said, is everybody all right? The answer was yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, nobody got seriously injured to the best of my knowledge here for that tornado. And we had people from the community, coming by the rec centers and offering to help us, pull off trees and stuff like that. So it was, just a big neighborhood at that point too, kind of similar to what your experience was.
Yeah.
So that was, like you say, you never want to have any type of tragedy, but then it's kind of a cool element of it.
Yeah. It kind of brings people's humanity to the forefront, brings a little empathy out for people. And it's kind of something I wish we had all the time, but it's like those moments call everyone to kind of dig deep for the most empathy they can offer. And, as much as I'd love to, I don't wake up every morning and think, how empathetic can I be today? But, wish we all did that more.
I don't think any of us do. Obviously, sometimes it takes something like that to shake you a little bit and puts everybody on the same time. We're all so busy with our lives.
Yeah.
You guys are all, your family here even. I mean, you got the two of you who are working, you got the two young kids, you got business, you got, going a million different directions as everybody does. So, so that's kind of common for a lot of us here in Highlands Ranch and everywhere.
So you've been in Highlands Ranch for 30 years now. Tell me what it's like having watched the change over the last 30 years.
It's been extraordinary. So it really has. I mean, without being too melodramatic about it. But so when I moved in here, I moved towards the east side of Highlands Ranch when I first lived with family and I came out here. And I remember driving out on Highlands Ranch Parkway, going down to Santa Fe. And there's like this big 6-lane road and there's nothing down here. I'm like, what is this for?
They did a great call though on the planning. They knew it was going to be huge. Yeah. Thank goodness, because that road is busy.
It is busy. Exactly. And then to see it like build up. And when I first moved here in 1993, There was the rec center, which is Northridge. And then there was the outdoor pool, which was Crestridge, which is the Eastridge outdoor pool. And so then I remember in 1997 when they built the whale pool, the second outdoor pool. And then in December of 97, built the second rec center, the new rec center, Eastridge at that point. And it was like, it was like a Taj Mahal. It was giant when it first opened up. And then 4 years after that, we built Westridge. And then 4 years after that, in 2005, we built Southridge. So just the rec centers. But the rec centers were built, and the folks, if any of you have kids around and you've played soccer at Tepfer Park, a lot of people call it Topher Park, Toepfer.
It's Tepfer. I've never pronounced it correctly.
Nobody does, right? Unless you met Jim Tepfer. He was the head of Mission Viejo when they came out with their master planners in 1978. And they foresaw all of this somehow, kind of crazy. And that master plan was approved in 1979.
Wow.
And so I ran into Mr. Teffer. It was a few years before the pandemic, so it was a while ago. And I was kind of joking with him, and he was a great guy. And so I said, Mr. Teffer, I said, seriously, when you and your little people from Mission Viejo, California came out here, did you really envision this? He goes, oh yeah, Kurt, absolutely. He goes, I got pictures in my basement I can show you.
Wow.
So, I don't, you might call BS on that or not, but whatever, he held up to his story. And so, that master plan has barely changed since 1979. And here we are, 99% build out for single family homes, 31,000 single family homes here, 100,000 people. And then the 80% build out for a community property. And so, it's just seeing it grow like that. It all makes sense. I mean, there was one high school here. There's Highlands Ranch High School when I came here. I got the other three, public schools with Rock Canyon High School and Mount Vista and Thunder Ridge. And of course the private schools here with Valor Christian. There's Sky Ridge is here. And then also, STEM, which is part of the Douglas County Schools. So, 5, 6 high schools here. Mm-hmm. And so it's built into that population breaks, or when we were building the rec centers, we hit certain landmarks at that time. It was kind of when that company and that was kind of decided at that point. So it's been fascinating. It's been great.
Wow. Very cool.
And then you see the different trend, and for us, one of the challenges for the Highlands Ranch Community Association is when you're building a new rec center, try to figure out, hey, what's a trend and what's a fad? So, when you're putting the amenities together. So, as opposed to going all in on something which could be gone in 2 or 3 years, and then you got to adapt your building. But all the buildings are pretty adaptable. It's supposed to figure out, hey, is this just the beginning of something that's going to keep going, or is it just a fad? So it's always one of the challenges that our directors and actually, this information comes from all of us. Every neighborhood has a district delegate or a representative. They meet the third Tuesday of every month. The public's always welcome to come in here and discuss stuff like that as well.
I think there's an election, actually. I think I saw something. Yes. I think the guy up the road, there's only one running from our district.
Yes, that's it.
God bless him for doing that. How it is. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's got to volunteer to do the work.
Yeah.
Thank you to all those people.
I agree.
So let's see. I was heading somewhere. Just a little edit of that. Oh, what was I just going to ask you? I had a good follow-up for that.
Oh, shoot, sorry.
No. You're great. We were talking about Tepfer. We're talking about the facilities.
30 years ago when I moved in here.
30 years ago.
Changed.
Great. There we go. So, and now, knowing that history, you've seen a lot of change. What do you want for Highlands Ranch moving forward? We're pretty built out, as you said. We've got a new senior center coming in, but what do you see for Highlands Ranch as a township, and what do you want for us as a community?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think things are doing constant is change, right? And so just for us to stay progressive as we are, I always kind of felt we're a progressive community and staying up with what serves our community at this point. I mean, looking at our trends, where we're going demographically on down the line. I think a lot of our infrastructure is in place to make those type of adaptations, those changes. I mean, not as big of an answer as what you wanted, but for instance, pickleball, just exploding, fastest growing.
We are blowing up and providing pickleball facilities for people. I think that is awesome.
Right. And then, but you have to think about some of the other things. So for us, we converted 3 of our tennis courts over at the Westridge Recreation Center to 6 pickleball courts. But you have to think of the impact, because there is that, there's the noise factor to it, every time you hit it. So, placing those pickleball courts in one area we have it where it's 2/3 by one of the major roads. Our building's kind of covering one of the ones, and we have a noise reducing a barrier that we have on all of our screens at that point. So, that's one easy, quick thing that we've done. We're We're converting an area at Southridge right now. We're covering the back behind the auditorium area so that we can have events kind of indoor, outdoor. So weather's not gonna hinder those as much. We can expand our area on that one.
What kind of events?
So in that auditorium at Southridge, we have a lot of special events, but we also have, it's pretty cool. So like as your girls get older, we have all of our dance recitals there. We have a drama program there. We have concerts there from time to time. People can rent it out for parties and whatnot. Our therapeutic recreation department does all these different dances and whatnot there. So being able to expand on that one. There's a magic show, which is a couple of weeks ago, which is over there, which is kind of cool. That's attached to a commercial kitchen. So we have cooking classes over there. So everything from how to learn, basic stuff, turning on stoves to, making advanced pastries and stuff like that you want going on there. So, and then they have some of the community events going on there as well. Some of the fairs and some of the, selling stuff and different things like that.
Awesome. Yeah. Unintended consequence of starting this podcast. And I'm learning so much about my own community because there's so much to know. And I think so many people move here like we did and you get busy having life and having kids. And, I forget how many things are available to us because we're
200 programs just at the HRCA.
It's incredible.
Outside of the base amenities, outside of you and I taking our kids swimming and working out and running on the track. But over 200 programs, everything from our licensed day camps and preschools to arts classes and guitar classes and cooking classes and drama classes. And of course, then all the sports leagues and tennis and basketball and, pickleball leagues and on down the line. Yeah. So, yeah.
What's one thing that you would change about Highlands Ranch?
Every time you start to be a little negative about something that's around here, you just simply walk outside. It's just absolutely a beautiful community. You got the mountains on the side. The one thing it's more of a cultural thing right now. We're entering an election right now, and without getting political on it, I just wish people would be just a little bit more respectful. Maybe just listen a little bit more than talk. And even if you don't agree with somebody, just hear them out. I mean, that person obviously has their different perspective on that one. And you don't have to agree with them, but I just like to see a little bit more respect. We've gotten kind of into, and I don't want to get too deep into the woods and this type of stuff, but people talking and basically not listening to anybody else. And that's not really what we're supposed to be about. Not just in Highlands Ranch, but if you go back to, some of our founders and Benjamin Franklin and John Adams were polar opposites on a lot of their different things that they were going through, but they had to respect and they listened to each other.
They created this country together.
Together, right? And they would debate for hours and hours and hours. And then at the end of the day, sometimes there's only one in. And having to eat together and then sharing, rooms together and stuff like that. But they came up with what they felt was best at that point. They left it open for you and I. And so whatever, I don't want to get too deep into that point, but I'd like to hear people, we're lucky, 99% of the people coming into our facilities are coming to work out, coming to go to a class, coming to have fun, coming to swim, come to take their kids to classes, this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, when things get in their way, obviously, and then that's where our customer service comes in and trying to help them out at that point. And so we're pretty lucky at the recreation centers that we see people at their best for the most part. And
we don't do political conversations while we're working.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I think that's great. I think a lot about what you're talking about. We don't need to get into specifics because we don't want to offend any of our listeners. Right. God forbid they have a different opinion, whatever side we're on. But I feel you. I think just a little more grace and acceptance and curiosity towards our fellow people and the opinions they might carry would probably, if I can drop my opinions and really listen to somebody and get what they care about and get their concerns, it's usually pretty mind opening. And I think oh, wow. I didn't really consider it from that side. Maybe there's a little gray area in between this black and white.
That's very well said. I agree with you. Yeah.
Something the whole world needs, I would say. I think
it's another podcast for us, but we can get into that one.
Not a political podcast. Not a political podcast. So. Just a little bit about you and just, we're going to wrap up here in just a minute, but what do you do for fun and what do you do to take care of yourself?
So, I'm pretty active still. I'm getting a little bit older. I was very involved with my kids growing up. Got a son who graduated. My son Duke graduated from University of Colorado. He's a graduate of Rock Canyon High School here. Picked up his degree in finance and accounting, picked up a master's. My daughter did the same thing, ran through here, Savannah, and they both played sports. She's at University of Missouri right now, trying to go into sports broadcasting, which sounds kind of fun.
Awesome.
I coached over 70 of their teams, coached 900 games, 3,000 practices, everything from boys and girls soccer to softball to baseball to hockey to football, lacrosse on down the line. So when they got out of school, obviously it left kind of a big void for us. We became empty nesters because we were going all the time. Most of the time, both of them had sports going on, 2 different sports plus school plus everything else going on, and trying to keep both family, all that type of stuff. So obviously there's a void. We still spent a lot of times with our kids. We immediately picked up season tickets for CU so we could go up and bother our son 5 times a year. And
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And then we picked up tickets at University of Missouri so we could bother our daughter when we're there at that point. But I still ski. I stay active. You'll see me working out at the rec centers from time to time. I'm the person in the corner sweating more than you are and a little bit heavier, going slower than you are on the treadmills and the ellipticals, but I still work out a little bit. I still ski a bit. I go to concerts. We travel a bit. Love movies.
Awesome. What's the favorite movie you've seen recently?
Let's see. Recently, we always kind of go back, and of course, all these things are on all the streaming services and this type of stuff. I just watched. It was a miniseries, so it wasn't necessarily a movie. The Offer with Miles Teller. It's kind of about the making of The Godfather, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
So how we put it on, going through the studio and all that type of stuff. Of course, Miles Teller after Top Gun's been pretty hot. So that's pretty fun watching that and all the ins and outs.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What's one connection you could use in the world right now, whether that's personal, professional, something for the recreation center, what do you need in the world?
Connection. I'm involved with a few different organizations right now, and but you know what? You can never have enough friends. Actually, I've enjoyed meeting you today. This has been fun. So, just on a daily basis, you have the opportunity to meet people all the time. And there's a lot of cool people out there. And I met your wife because she worked for us earlier. And this has been fun. It's been fun getting to know you and getting to talk to you. So just on a daily basis, I went to a hockey game last night. The couple in front of us were pretty fun at the Avalanche game. So, there's connections everywhere.
Awesome. Oh, that's a great answer. It's been great getting to know you as well. And another fully intended consequence, actually, of the podcast is I really just wanted to dive in and get to know more people in this community.
This is cool. You're talking. It's a great logo. This is a great idea. So
thank you.
So I wish you a lot of success. You're a really nice person, and this is a lot of fun. Wish you a lot of success with it. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm getting what I want so far out of it. So, what book that you have read has been the most impactful in your life?
Good question. And you did prep me for this question. I have to tell you, I do not read as much as I used to. I used to be a decent reader, but you take away from everything that you read, even the bad stuff, even the good stuff. As far as fiction goes, I know this isn't exactly what you're asking me right now, but I love Hemingway. I love Kerouac. I read all those. When we've traveled, we've gone to a lot of Hemingway's places. I've read a lot of corporate books, everything from Og Mandino to, The World's Greatest Salesman. And I've read the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's a pretty good book I read a few years ago, and it's by a local guy, Fred Sanford, I think is his name. But it's called, I jotted it down, and The Fred Factor, by Mark Sanborn. And okay. It's really cool. It's about a Denver mailman, and it's kind of a customer service and a connection type of a book. And he came and talked to our organization a few years ago, right before the pandemic, and Mark was great. The Energy Bus.
I know the Energy Bus. Yeah.
That's a good book. I read when I was back in advertising and marketing a book called Positioning, and I forget who the author was, but it was fantastic. But as far as other reading, I like Dan Brown. Was never much of a fan of John Steinbeck. Didn't really care about Chaucer and Beowulf and that type of stuff. I love biographies. I'm a big sports guy, so I read a really good book by Mike Eruzione, who will score the game-winning goal against Russia in the 1980 Olympics.
Cool.
The Machine, if you like, I'm from Ohio, so you have to read everything about the big red machine and the Reds. So.
OH?
Yeah, exactly. IL. All right. Thurman Munson, Yogi Berra, I'm a Yankees fan, so. You take a little bit away from all of them, people overcoming stuff. Some of the things are inspirational, some of the things that you don't care for. And then, fiction's always fun.
Cool.
To kind of get away from stuff.
And then what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I thought about this a little bit. I did jot down a couple of things, but this is something that I talk to around. And you've got to have fun with whatever you're doing. And some of these philosophies that we talk about, you have to have fun. And so I always remind my supervisors that I work with said, just because I'm having fun doesn't mean I'm not taking it serious. And so you can have fun at work. And so that's kind of the key to it. Obviously being respectful at that point, but that's, every day make it an experience.
Awesome. That's great. Well, it seems pretty clear that you're doing that in your world. So
Appreciate it.
Well, I think that's a wrap. Curt, thank you so much for your time and coming in today. It's a pleasure to meet you and be with you today. And maybe we'll have you on again later on to have a little rewind once this is an old episode and people have forgotten about it.
Sure. Anytime, Jake. It was a pleasure. Enjoyed meeting you.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome.